Yes!
You knew this was coming. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Completionist, Superhero Month, Season 5, Superman 64. You knew it was coming. Some of you knew. Some of you ruined that bit.
$1999 was a pretty great year in gaming. It was the year that gave us Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. It kicked off the Smash Bros. Franchise. It gave us Street Fighter III Third Strike. And it was the year that we saw the release of the Sega Dreamcast. But not all was right in the world of gaming on the dawn of the new millennium. 1999 was also the year that a terrible horror was unleashed upon the face of video games. Superman for the Nintendo 64 was developed by Titus Software with the best of intentions to create a superhero game in which players would really get to act like a superhero, which was somewhat unprecedented at the time. Unfortunately, due to the game's development process being plagued by the unreasonable mandates of both DC Comics and Warner Brothers, as well as the N64's hardware limitations, it seemed like the game, much like Krypton itself, was doomed from the start. Despite Titus's honorable aspirations, Superman 64 ended up as one of the most abysmal products to ever bear Superman's name, and as what many consider to be the worst video game ever made. Superman 64 was panned by critics far and wide, a beating it earned with its lack of content, lackluster game design, and countless game-breaking bugs. But despite all the bad press, the game went on to sell relatively well. I repeat, the game went on to sell relatively well. Instead of slipping into the annals of myth and obscurity, Superman was actually played by many. Far too many. I guess you just can't underestimate Superman's charisma.
What's your position on the Bat Vigilante in Gotham?
Superman for the Nintendo 64 touched a lot of lives in the worst way, and now it's my turn. I may just be a mere mortal Superman, but I have what it takes to defeat you. Huh, now I kind of know how Lex Luthor feels. Kind of a bad sign. But not like Lex Luthor from, the current Lex Luthor stuff. I'm talking at the very least Smallville Lex Luthor, because that dude, that's a sexy Lex Luthor that I want to be. After opening up with a vague threat from Brainiac, Superman 64's story begins with Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen, and Professor Hamilton standing in front of an unimpressive-looking portal of some kind. And Lex Luthor's there too, which suggests that your friends are there against their will. But man, do they look calm, especially Lois. She looks practically nonchalant. Luthor then exclaims that you'll never be able to find your friends in this virtual world. Oh. Didn't you realize that you were looking through Superman's eyes? Because you are. Surprise! The portal begins to swirl and Superman's pals are completely enveloped. Of course, first-person Superman follows after them blindly. You're then immediately dropped into the foggy, ring-filled version of Metropolis that will soon become your personal nightmare. Your friends are nowhere to be seen, and Luthor claims that you can save them by solving his maze. And that's it! That's all it's going to get for the entire game. You're just abruptly and bafflingly thrust into the terrible gameplay with hardly any explanation whatsoever. I'm sorry, I have an anger problem today. How did all three of Superman's allies get captured? Who built this virtual world? Why should we care about any of these characters, especially Superman? You best get out of here with all that foundation building, because apparently there ain't no time for any of that. Luthor will occasionally wave a carrot in front of your nose by reminding you every once in a while that the reason you're accomplishing all these asinine tasks is to save your friends. But you never really feel motivated to help your pals, let alone help yourself. The story is merely a framing device for the gameplay, which normally is fine. It's fine, but with gameplay this terrible, this bad, it just makes the lack of a serviceable story hurt that much more. So how can we fix it? Here is how. It's so simple, you guys. So simple. They could have easily just adapted an episode or two from the Superman animated series, which this is clearly based off of, and tied things together with still frames and text boxes. Anything would have been better than what we've got. Even Superman 3. I will take Superman 3. Save us, Richard Pryor. Save us all.
What you know, hey.
Allow me to mention the one redeeming quality of this game's presentation. It's based on the Bruce Timm Superman animated series from 1996. That's it. In every other way, this game looks and sounds downright awful. When it comes to the audio direction, the name of the game is Repetition. Repetition is the name of the game. Repetition happens to be the name of the game. Did you hear that gunfire? Then that's the one you're going to hear for the rest of the game. Repetition. Repetition's the name of the game. Did you hear an explosion? Then I hope you liked it, dude, because Repetition's the name of the game. Even the awesome whoosh sound when taking off, which is actually directly lifted from the animated series, manages to get old. Repetition's the name of the game. The music doesn't fare very well either. It's all muffled, uninspired, and repeated ad nauseum. Repetition's the name of the game. Since the game forces you enough to revisit the same environments over and over again, you think the very least they could do is have some variation in their soundtrack. Guess what I'm gonna say next? Repetition's the name of the game. Superman and the other main characters look okay. That is the only mediocre or nice thing you're going to hear me say about this game. But if you're merely an extra in this feature or film of failure, then prepare to look downright dreadful, even by 1999 standards. Low-poly citizens and generic robots are one thing, but all these black fedora-wearing enemies are dishearteningly undefined. The backgrounds don't fare any better. Everything is washed out and hazy thanks to the unexplained fog of war that's ever present in the game's outside environments. But even the interior locations suffer from bland textures and vast blackness. While a few of the game's set pieces look somewhat decent, like the skyscrapers for instance, things start getting astonishing once you really take a close look at the world that exists inside of Superman 64. Like, let's look at these buildings right here on the Metropolis ground floor. They're completely flat. It looks like one of those old school kiddie playmats with a tiny town printed on it, and Metropolis is eerily devoid of people. I honestly can't tell if this lack of definition is an intentional design choice on Lex Luthor's part. Just look at this. Being underwater makes you look like you've glitched through something. And while we're on the subject of glitches, they are everywhere. As you naturally play the game, you're bound to run into a glitch or four that will absolutely ruin whatever you're trying to do. Sometimes, Superman will just clip through the wall into the void. Occasionally, he'll just fall through the floor, unable to climb back out. And sometimes, NPCs and objects, which are crucial to your progression, will just disappear for no reason, causing you to have to restart the level. The whole game is so impressively offensive that it almost seems intentional. It somehow manages to do everything wrong. It's like one of those Chinese ripoffs, except it's not. This was an officially licensed product. Seriously, when you punch citizens, they ask, "What's wrong, Superman? Are you okay?" And maybe that's what this game is really all about. Maybe this is just a giant simulation designed to make Superman question himself and his deepest beliefs. Are you okay, Superman? Is this how you see the world? Are we just all soulless puppets to you? If this was Lex's plan all along, well then... Well done, Lex! Well done! I don't know if playing this game would break Superman, but it's certainly broken many of us players out there.
They say that insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again. That's my job in a nutshell. And then Superman 64 comes along and just puts more rings. More and more and more. I can never eat an onion ring ever again. Ever!
Superman 64 is broken. Superman 64 is broken into two different kinds of stages. action-oriented indoor stages, and the outdoor ring-filled hellscapes that have become synonymous with this game. And the legends are true. The ring sections come straight from the deepest depths of Hades. You've got to fly through a series of rings until you reach the final red ring. Your target ring glows green, and just in case you miss it, there are a few yellow forgiveness rings that you can fly through to get back on track. But if you fly through one of the grayed out rings, it's game over. Sounds simple, right? Well, it would be simple if it weren't for the abominable controls. Superman handles like a busted-ass ice cream truck from the Nixon administration. The time limit only adds to the stress, and things get really bad when the rings start moving. Ugh. Just look at this mess. You've only got so many grace rings to fly through before they run out, and it's incredibly easy to get momentarily disoriented, completely losing your sense of direction in the process. But the worst part about all of this is that these ring sections appear a lot. They're literally more than half the game, and they're exactly the same thing every time. For comparison's sake, let's take a look at a similar type of mission from Batman Arkham City. Batman also has to fly through some green rings, but in Arkham City, the ring missions are short, clear, and they control extremely well. They actually teach you something worth knowing about Batman's gliding controls, and there aren't that many of them. In short, be more like Batman, Superman. Damn it, I should have never brought up a good game while reviewing this game. Now I just want to play that again. After each ring sequence, there's a small mini-mission. They usually involve lifting objects and placing them somewhere else, taking out bad guys, and stopping tornadoes by freezing them with your breath. I just want to point out, why are there tornadoes in Metropolis in beautiful 75-degree weather? Can someone tell me why? Is there a tornado machine? Maybe Storm from X-Men, who's a part of the Marvel Universe, decides to show up and create a Twister. I don't know. It makes no sense. These missions wouldn't be that bad if it weren't for the phantoms of bad controls and rampant glitches. The tasks given to you in these mini-missions aren't complicated in the least. They're just made complicated by the game not allowing you to do what's asked of you. Prepare to fail these missions for dumb reasons. A lot. And guess what? When you fail, you have to restart the ring section that precedes it! And better yet, before you do it again, Luthor just laughs at you! Look at that laugh. This isn't that laugh. Feel that laugh. Yo, give me that Jeff Goldblum remix. Then there are so-called action stages. I really wish you could see my action stages base quotation marks because they are horrible. Ah! These usually have you going from room to room, fighting enemies, and searching for items to advance. Sometimes you have to rescue people, other times you have to solve really obtuse puzzles. And of course, no bad game would be complete without poorly executed escort missions. Most of the time, your tasks in these stages feel more like busy work than fun, and they never, ever make you feel like Superman once. I just want to point out a game that is being designed to make you feel like Superman never once makes you feel like Superman. I'm sorry, just let it sink in. Combat with Superman feels sad more than anything. His range is terrible, and his animations make him look less than heroic. Look, guys. He's trying his heart out. When you strike your enemies, you better hope that it kills them immediately, because if they get merely sent flying back, that means you have to painfully walk up and hopefully try to hit them again. You do not, and I repeat, you do not want to walk up to them in this game. Ever. It's honestly so frustrating to fight hand to hand that just flying into people to damage them is basically the better option. And with a little imagination, just a little bit, you can almost picture Superman flying right through these dudes' torsos. Yes, that's justice. Go see Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice. This is a free plug, no brand deal. I guarantee you that's gonna be way better than Superman 64. I promise you that. Your enemies include random robots, tanks, and shady dudes dressed in black trench coats. Most of the time, these guys are going to shoot you from afar with bullets, missiles, and bombs, so flying straight at them is the way to go. Depending on the enemy, you'll either knock them out completely or you'll pick them up and throw them, which causes them to explode inexplicably. Due to how bad the camera is, entering an area with a lot of enemies can be a death sentence, since safely locating and traveling to each enemy can be a real hassle. I also want to point out that every item you throw in this game explodes. Every single item. There's a cardboard box here. There's probably some ammo in it, maybe some food. Nope, explosion! Everything I kid you not, everything bursts. If you pick it up and fly and you touch the roof, it explodes. If it is in your hand and you touch the roof and explodes, you take damage. Superman is like the Midas of explosions. Anything you touch, it explodes. He has the Midas touch of explosions. Superman 64. Superman 64's bosses are actually characters from Superman's history and the animated series, including the likes of Metallo, Parasite, and Darkseid. The problem is that all these fights rely on Superman's god-awful fighting controls. I suppose it helps that the bosses themselves are as dumb as a box of bricks that probably would explode if you picked them up, as they just walk into your super fists over and over and over again until they keel over. Holding down the A button is the win button. You just punch and they walk into it. But one of the most egregious sins that this game commits is locking most of Superman's powers behind tokens. Sure, you've got flight and super strength at all times, but in order to use the rest of his power set, you have to find various tokens hidden throughout the action stages. Of course, there is something to be said of unlocking things and the sense of progression in video games, but this is not a video game, so not having heat vision or freeze breath in a Superman game kind of just it doesn't make any sense. You need to have those things. Many of his superpowers may be present through these tokens, such as super speed and X-ray vision, but they're still disappointing since they're tied to a depletable meter. Once you run out, you can't use that power ever again until you find that one specific token. Some really wacky power-ups are included too, like Superman's ability to convince his foes to fight on his side. It's more out of place than Superman's cellophane wrapper from Superman 2. That's two Superman references that are still better than the damn game. This game feels like the rebellious kid who purposefully answers every question incorrect on the test just to spite their authority figures. There's so much going wrong in this game, and the worst part of all of it is that at no point during my playthrough did I ever feel like Superman. On the contrary, playing this game made me feel frustrated and bitter most of the time, and violent, and hungry, and sad, and alone. Like I wanted to hurt someone. Like I wanted to hurt Superman. I get it now. I'm Lex Luthor. I understand everything now. The only way that this game makes me feel like Superman is the fact that I'm conquering it. I feel like I'm Superman because I conquered this game. That is not the way this game should be made.
Guys, I figured out Five Nights at Freddy's. Hear me out. I figured it out, okay? The wolf from Titus Software is freaking Foxy, and that's why it all started. Because of Superman 64, confirmed! I figured it out. Matt, I got your back, buddy. I got it.
After braving through some of his worst enemies, including countless soul-sucking rings, which, by the way, is 7 stages! 7 of them! Superman must rescue his friends one last time and take the fight directly to the one responsible for all of this, Brainiac. After boarding his spacecraft, battling your way through legions of robot crabs, and solving some idiotic puzzles that include completely unlabeled time travel portals, and having to freeze both Jimmy and Lois Lane with your ice breath to push them over catwalks with lightning bolts going everywhere, it's finally time for Man vs. Machine, even though the game is already that. The fight against Brainiac will require precise control and watching out. Okay, well, you know what? He's dead. I guess all you have to do is spam your heat vision from far away, and that's it. Later, man. Unfortunately, you've still got to destroy Brainiac's ship with an automatic destruct sequence, and in order to do that, you'll have to activate 3 bombs in different locations around the ship. You have to scour Brainiac's ship in order to find these bombs, and when you locate the first one, you gotta take it to the room called the Thunder Arena. Once there, throw the bomb to activate it, then get the hell out of there before the countdown reaches 0. The last 2 bombs have to be brought to the teleporter rooms. Drop the first one in front of the teleporter, activate it with your heat vision, and then quickly exit using the first teleporter. Repeat this process for the last bomb, and the teleporter will transport you to the game's final room. Complete with the Looney Tunes, that's all folks, portal that leads back to the real world. Fly into it, and the nightmare is finally over. So you're probably wondering how the game makes it clear that you're supposed to take the bombs to specific places and activate them in very particular ways. Well, it doesn't at all. The only way I was able to beat this level, let alone game, was with a walkthrough. There's no way I'd be able to finish it on my own. How is anyone supposed to be able to figure this stuff out on their own? Proton John, you are my good friend. Without your videos, I would not have been able to at least beat half this game. Back in the real world, Lois, Jimmy, and the Professor are safe, or as safe as they can be, because they're standing right next to the portal again. Clark Kent is here as well, and somehow everything is back to normal. The wigging out camera is normal, right? It has to be. I mean, they're about to shoot the intro to the DK rap.
Here we go.
The game congratulates you on rescuing your friends, but then warns you that Lex is still out there. You kidding me? They're hinting at a sequel? Good job, Superman. You accomplished a bunch of meaningless tasks inside a world where the danger was never truly real. Your time was completely wasted, and you have nothing to show for it. Wait a minute. The camera can't be first person, Superman. Clark's right there. The camera must be me. I'm the camera. I always have been. I wasted my time. I have nothing to show for it. That. I'm gonna be a supervillain.
I'm the boss. I'm the boss. I'm very, very sorry for your loss.
There aren't really any unlockables or completion bonuses to be found in Superman 64, and beating the game doesn't get you anything special either. But it should be noted that the game does have 3 difficulty modes: Easy, Normal, and Superman. And if you're trying to complete the game because you hate yourself, then you better play on the Superman difficulty. Why? Because playing on Normal or Easy will deny you access to the last couple of levels. Just imagine devoting yourself to beating this game on Normal and then finding out that at the end, you've been wasting your time. May God help those poor souls that experience that horror. There are a few codes that you can use to make your Superman experience slightly less vomit-inducing. To activate cheat mode on the main menu, enter up C, down C, left C, and right C. Entering this code will allow you to input further codes during the pause menu to activate different cheats, such as unlimited access to all Superman's powers, refilling your health meter, and even a level skip. Theoretically speaking, you could beat Superman 64 in less than a minute. But honestly, even with all these cheats activated, is Superman 64 really worth playing? No. No. Go do anything else. Stop the music! Let me make this clear. Superman 64 is the worst time I've ever had playing a video game. It's so bad that I'm considering shaving my head and stealing cakes. It has virtually no redeeming qualities, and it's not worth playing, even due to sheer morbid curiosity. No breakdown, no difficulty rating, just regrets. But if my playthrough and review of this game helps at least one person out there to avoid it, then it's all worth it. That's it. That's all. Thank you, everyone. And God bless America.
Superman 64 is the worst game of all time.
No time to waste.
With that in mind, guys, I give this game my completionist rating of donated to all hell.
Donated.
That's all the time we have for today, guys, so please, as always, let us know what you thought about today's episode somewhere on the internet. Guys, the remix provided in this episode was an original piece of work created by Ace Waters. Check out his channel, links in the description below. You can also buy that song on Bandcamp or some kind of digital distribution set. It was an original piece made just for this episode, so please support him. It's a good time, I guarantee it. Now, if you excuse me, let's listen to that remix with more horrible footage of Superman 64.
Then there's no time to waste. No time to waste. No time to waste. No time to waste. Then there's no time to waste. No time to waste. No time to waste. No time to waste. Then there's no time to waste. No time to waste. Then there's no time to waste. Then there's no time to waste. No time to waste. No time to waste. Then there's no time to waste. No time to waste. No time to waste.